Have you noticed how fear almost always speaks about something that hasn't even happened yet? Maybe today your mind is full of questions that no one seems able to answer. You've tried to imagine every possible outcome. You've replayed conversations that haven't happened. You've worried about tomorrow before today has even ended. And little by little, that fear begins to steal your peace. It becomes difficult to rest, difficult to make decisions, difficult to enjoy the blessings that are already in front of you because your thoughts are trapped somewhere in the future. If that's how you feel today, I want you to know something before we go any further. You are not weak. You are not alone. And you are certainly not forgotten. Throughout the Bible, some of God's greatest servants also stood in front of an uncertain future. They didn't know what would happen next. They didn't have every answer. But they discovered something that changed everything. They learned that while they could not see the road ahead, God already could. And maybe that is exactly the message your heart needs today. Fear has a strange way of making the future look bigger than the God who created it. It whispers questions that seem impossible to silence. What if everything goes wrong? What if I fail? What if this door never opens? What if I lose everything? The more we listen to those questions, the heavier our hearts become. Sometimes nothing has actually happened. No bad news has arrived. No decision has been made. No door has closed. Yet inside us, the battle has already begun. Fear convinces us to suffer twice. Once in our imagination, and again if the difficult moment ever comes. That is why anxiety steals so much joy. It makes us live in a future that does not even exist yet. But there is something fear never tells you. It never reminds you that God is already present in every tomorrow you are worried about. And that changes everything. The future feels frightening because it is hidden from us. But it has never been hidden from God. Long before this day arrived, He already knew you would be here. He knew the questions that would keep you awake at night. He knew the moments when your faith would feel small. He knew every prayer you would whisper when no one else was listening. Nothing you are facing today has taken Him by surprise. While you are trying to figure out your next step, God is already standing at the place where that step will lead. Think about that for a moment. The road ahead may be unknown to you, but it is completely familiar to Him. He has already seen every obstacle, every opportunity, every answer, every door that should remain closed, and every door that will open at exactly the right time. That is why the Bible says, "Do not fear, for I am with you. Do not be dismayed, for I am your God. I will strengthen you and help you. I will uphold you with my righteous right hand." These words were not spoken only for people thousands of years ago. They still speak to every heart that is afraid today, including yours. Perhaps the greatest mistake fear makes is convincing us that we are walking into tomorrow alone. But we never are. God is already there, waiting, preparing, guiding, even when we cannot see Him. Throughout Scripture, God rarely revealed the entire journey before asking someone to take the first step. He asked Noah to build an ark before the rain ever came. He called Abraham to leave his homeland before showing him where he would live. He asked Moses to face Pharaoh before the sea was opened. He invited Peter to step onto the water before it became firm beneath his feet. In every story, the pattern is the same. God did not remove every uncertainty first. He invited his people to trust him in the middle of it. And perhaps that is exactly what he is inviting you to do today. Not because your fears are imaginary, but because his faithfulness is greater than your fear. There will always be questions you cannot answer. There will always be moments when you wish you could see further down the road. But faith has never been about seeing everything. Faith begins where certainty ends. And every time you choose to trust God instead of your fear, you take one more step toward the future he has already prepared. There is a question I would like you to carry with you for the rest of this message. What if the future you're so afraid of is the very place where God has already been working on your behalf? We often pray for answers. But sometimes, before God gives us an answer, He prepares us to receive it. We ask Him to remove every obstacle. Yet there are moments when He chooses to strengthen us instead. Not because He has abandoned us, but because He knows what lies ahead. Think about a loving father walking with his child through a forest. The child cannot see beyond the next few steps. Every shadow feels dangerous. Every unfamiliar sound seems frightening. But the father sees the path. He knows where the ground is safe. He knows where the danger is. The child keeps walking, not because the forest suddenly becomes less intimidating, but because someone trustworthy is leading the way. That is what God offers us every single day. Not the promise of a life without uncertainty, but the promise of His presence in the middle of it. Perhaps today you are asking God to show you every detail of tomorrow. And perhaps He is gently saying, "Trust me with the next step." Because one faithful step is enough for today. Tomorrow will come with its own grace. And when it does, God will already be there. One of the greatest misunderstandings about faith is believing that trusting God means never feeling afraid again. But that is not what we see in the Bible. Courage is not the absence of fear. Courage is choosing to keep walking even when fear is whispering in your ear. David knew fear. Elijah knew fear. The disciples knew fear. Yet God never rejected them because they were afraid. Instead, He reminded them, again and again, "Do not fear." Not because danger did not exist, but because His presence was greater than the danger. Maybe your heart is still anxious today. Maybe your questions have not disappeared. That doesn't mean your faith has failed. Sometimes faith sounds like this: "Lord, I don't understand what is happening, but I choose to trust you anyway." And perhaps that simple prayer is more powerful than you realize. Because God has never asked you to carry tomorrow by yourself. He has only asked you to trust Him today. Can I remind you of something that fear wants you to forget? You were never asked to carry the weight of tomorrow. That burden was never meant to rest on your shoulders. So many people wake up each morning already exhausted, not because of what happened yesterday, but because of everything they imagine could happen tomorrow. Fear has a way of making us live days that have not even arrived. It steals today's strength by asking us to solve tomorrow's problems. But Jesus gave us a different invitation. He taught us to trust the Father one day at a time, to seek Him today, to obey Him today, to rest in Him today, because today's grace is enough for today's journey. And tomorrow will meet the grace that God has already prepared. Perhaps nothing around you has changed yet. The situation may still look the same. The questions may still be unanswered. But something can change inside your heart right now. You can stop believing that you must control everything. You can release the need to know every detail. You can breathe again. Not because every problem has disappeared, but because you know who is walking ahead of you. That is where true peace begins. Not when life becomes predictable, but when God's presence becomes greater than your uncertainty. So today, before this message comes to an end, I want to leave you with one final thought. A year from now, many of the things that are frightening you today may no longer even exist. Some doors will have opened. Some answers will have arrived. Some prayers will have been answered in ways you could never imagine. And when you look back, you may realize that God was guiding you through every moment, even during the days when you thought He was silent. Do not let fear write the story that only God can write. Take the next step. Pray. Trust. Keep walking. Not because you know exactly what tomorrow holds, but because you know the one who already does. And that is enough. If this message spoke to your heart today, take a moment to thank God for His constant presence, even in the moments when the future feels uncertain. If you enjoy messages that strengthen your faith and remind you that God never leaves you alone, subscribe to the channel and join us on this journey of hope. And if you stayed until the very end, write this in the comments. I choose to trust because God is already ahead of me. Your words may encourage someone else who needs this reminder today. May the Lord fill your heart with peace, strengthen your faith, and guide every step you take. Until next time, may God bless you always.